And good afternoon, everybody. This is Michael Filigera. I am with logicalsignals.com and tradershelpingtraders.com. And this is the Elliott wave update for the NASDAQ 100 for Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. Interesting day again. We did not fall out of any of the parameters that were set yesterday in terms of direction. But I do have a little bit more to add, of course. I am not changing this Elliott count and that it's on a sub level because this still could be the high, even though today we exceeded that high by a whole $1.25. And so it does not make any difference because it just seems, again, that was the high. This is 1 or A. This is ABC, 2 or B, and now we're going to start, or we have begun, a third wave or a C wave. And if it's a C wave, it's still going to unfold in 5 waves down. Now, in either scenario, additional downside is now needed to, one, finish the pattern, and it truly just can't leave us hanging because this is 3 and this was a 5. So my expectation is an additional 5 to come off. And what we have are some Fibonacci's that go along with that. Right now, we're holding right at the 618 level, which is just a common Fibonacci level. For this size of a wave, no, I would not expect it to stop there. I would not expect it to stop here. I would not expect it to stop here. But these do end up being support levels that provide bounces in and back forth. But consider that this is like a little bit of a spiral. And so as it continues to churn, it's like a hurricane. And the eye of the storm, which we'll call 0.618, it can stay calm. We get back there, we trade around, we get back there, we trade around, we get back there. So in each of these levels, it kind of holds it for a while, but the energy then kind of springs back out. And so in this particular case, because of the structure, if this is 1 of C or 1 of 3, then this is 2. And we are dropping into a third. And it would be, again, we're just going to call it a third. It's either a 3 of 3 or a 3 of C, but it's still a third. And what that implies is that we will get an acceleration. Again, it could happen overnight. It could start overnight. Previously, coming in, we had left open the expectations. In other words, we did say that the market could rally back up into, actually, I didn't think it would get much above, like 20, 30 maybe. And of course, it got all the way up and produced a slight new high. So on one hand, you would say a flat. It should be a flat because look at this is pretty much a box. And so the bottom of the box is right here at 14,834.75. But this is actually, I think, 34.30. Yeah, it's exactly the same. So it would be equal right there. And it could do that. Now, the intensity of the drop thus far tells me different, or at least leads me to be different. And the fact that I need to count 5 waves leads me to a different conclusion. And I'll switch back to, I had made it a little different in that hourly chart, but we're still going to go over here and we'll take a look, and it's still the same. So you can see, again, what we now can see is a little bit more of the internals, which is a better for me. So again, the end of the B wave. So here was A, and then we get an A and a B, and then we get the C wave. So this here. Actually, the A, the B, and the C. And that all works. And so this ends up being, if it's a flat that's going to come in here, I don't think so. I think it will turn up being a 5 waves down and will end up down in here as well as here. Actually, well, if things really get going, we could just start to drop. Again, if it's a 1, 2, and this is a 3. If it's just an ABC, then it likely is going to end here. So that's our two scenarios. From this initial structure, I don't think so. I think this is just building up energy, and then energy is going to explode and come this way. So twice we've seen the energy try to push it up. In fact, twice it did, and 2 new highs each time, and then just get rejected. We see the energy build, and then the buyers come, boom. I mean, they actually started overnight, but then US opens and bam, they run it within the first 20 minutes to another new high, and it's rejected. This time quicker than that time. But nonetheless, it was rejected. And, well, you know, this was over 100 points. This was rejected by over 100 points. So that energy just reverses. Now, this to me is just back and forth and back and forth. It's building energy. And I think the sellers will be the winning ticket here. Because again, then I go back to my Elliott, 1, 2, a third. Which is why I think it'll break there. If it's just an ABC flat, then yes, it's going to stop here. So we will keep an eye there. And it may pause there. But essentially, I do believe it's going to break. And I believe that it'll break and not really think about it because of the direction it's going to have to go and the momentum that it will have picked up. It should go right through this because it's a third and not a finishing C. Okay. Having said that, then I believe we just start to break down. Again, we're going to keep an eye on our moving averages because they will confirm it. Particularly if this drops below here, then we know it's a much larger third. And it's from here, well, then it's going to give 2 things. It's going to be a larger third, but it's also going to put more support on this having completed all the way up to what we're looking at, the primary third. And that then would suggest that we're in that primary 4th wave correction. And that correction is expected, would be expected, to drop us all the way back over time now, not tomorrow, but over time down to the lows of the March 2020, of the initial pandemic slide that we had. That's why I would expect it to come back to. So it should be a lot of fun, and there should be some great trading. Right now, it's kind of difficult because it'll sit and sit and sit and then just go. And then it sits and sits and then just goes. This one actually just went. But, you know, during this whole thing, yeah, it goes, but you should break it down and it's going to end up looking like this, and then boom, and then like this, and then boom. So if we expand the chart out and look at the smaller time frame, there was a lot of like, oh, I wish you guys would make up your mind moments in today's trade. And then suddenly it's like, oh, it must be the time of day, boom. And then they just come in and make them move. Which does not make it a lot easier to trade, but unfortunately, that's the way it is right now. But if we drop into the third, what I'm expecting, it should be a lot more evident and much easier to trade the trend, the direction, because the direction will be down and it'll be very convincing. That's how we know it'll be a third. Less convincing, you begin to figure maybe it's just going to be this little flat number. And if it is, folks, if this is an ABC flat, once the C's done, boom, we're off. I would think that that is a complete move, and the advance should pick back up, right? So that's the other side. It stops here. All that energy is expended, and it's completed this leg. Then I think we go again to new highs. And it's just, again, consolidation. Because it most certainly can keep building a coil, just kind of keep coiling on itself. Once the storm decides to break, direction will be very clear because of where we are sitting in the scheme of things up at all-time highs. That energy, I don't think, is going to break to the upside. I think that energy is building to just push it lower. But again, we trade what's in front of us, and we trade for that moment. And this is extending out. That what I think is coming will take a lot more than a day, an hour, a week to totally unfold, and will contain many declines and many rallies, many. And so using the skills that we have and the tools that we have will help us gauge when to let a position go in terms of running in the direction that we're going and make bigger money, and when not to. And will then be depending on the moving averages, and will depend on trend of being fully enforced. Right now, trend is really not enforced. It is intraday. No doubt the trend was up. No doubt the trend was down. No doubt the trend was up. And no doubt the trend was down. But see, you see, they keep switching. And what I'm feeling is like, we'll get these larger moves, and these shorter moves won't take an hour. If trend is down, it shouldn't go up for an hour. If trend is strongly down, I should say. So we're still in kind of building and coiling. Tomorrow, I again think upside should be limited. If we break and we start breaking here, it'll be interesting, but I'll figure it out. Right now, I'm not expecting that. Right now, I'm expecting it to be held definitely below 14,996, definitely. Maybe it gets up here, but right now it kind of is heading like it might want to because I've closed green, but I'm thinking we start to break down. And it could pick up some momentum. Slow to start, no doubt, because it's just the start of globex. We have Asia to open, and then we have Europe. Downside, we know if it's going to be limited here and it holds, and I mean really holds. It could futz around there for a while, but pay attention to how deep it wants to futz below and where it comes back. Could be another coil, could be a coil building, and then the next, and then just boom, they whack it. So again, it's like, these are the types of things that if you're trading, that being in the trade room is going to help, because you get a lot of insight from, okay, it's consolidating here, it's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are the possibilities. If it breaks, I'm going to be looking for this. If it breaks here, I'm looking for that. And so your setup is going to be a lot different because you'll have all the information as you came down into there. Enough for today. We have our upside, we have our downside. I believe more in the downside for right now. And the next update will be Thursday, July 15th.